Hi folks, I wanted to help you understand a little bit more about purpose and how it can be a little bit tricky. I think we all can think of times when it's pretty obvious that a source we're looking at might be biased, right? Where the purpose of it might be to manipulate us in some way. However, sometimes it's not always super obvious. So I wanted to show you this great example I found. This article is called "Skipping Breakfast Leads to Weight Loss, but also Elevated Cholesterol Compared with Consuming Daily Breakfasts of Oat Porridge or Frosted Cornflakes in Overweight Individuals, a Randomized Controlled Trial." So already it's sounding great. It's a randomized controlled trial, right? Which means research, which typically is a 3, right? The title leads us to believe that this is about you shouldn't necessarily skip breakfast. It might be better to eat some kind of oatmeal or frosted flakes, right? You might get higher cholesterol, right? Is kind of what it says. So here's what the abstract says. In conclusion, although skipping breakfast led to weight loss, it also resulted in increased total cholesterol concentrations compared with eating either oat porridge or frosted cornflakes for breakfast. So it sounds like it is, and it says there was no differences between groups in changes in body composition, blood pressure, or other risk factors, right? So overall, it's saying that it may be better for cholesterol reasons to not skip breakfast and to eat these two kinds of food, right? And it kind of describes what the experiment looked like, and we can read more about that in the actual article itself. However, I wanted to show one thing to y'all. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the very bottom of this article, and I want to show you something in the acknowledgments. It says, "We thank Yi Feng of PepsiCo for his helpful comments on the manuscript." And you're like, why is PepsiCo commenting on the manuscript? How interesting. I'm going to go down a little bit more, and it says, "The present study was funded by Quaker Oats Center of Excellence, PepsiCo R&D Nutrition. The funder contributed to the study design and editing of the manuscript. AG, who was responsible for the study conception and design, and who edited the manuscript, received funding from Quaker Oats." So we can see that there is a clear conflict of interest here, right? The purpose of, or rather, the claim that this article is making is that you should eat oat porridge or some kind of frosted flakes. What does Quaker Oats make, right? They make oat porridge and frosted cornflakes. So this study is claiming that we should be eating those things. However, the study is funded by a company that makes those foods. So this study may not be super reliable because it was created and funded by a company that wants us to eat the foods that it sells, right? So in this case, I actually don't think I would give it a 3, this article, on purpose. I think I would give it a 1 because I think it's manipulating us in some way. Versus, I have another article here on a similar topic, "Association Between Breakfast Skipping and Body Weight, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis of Observational Longitudinal Studies." I will note that in both of these two articles that we're looking at, excuse me, the authors are wonderful. They have scholarly credentials. Both are peer-reviewed journals, right? So until now, we'd be thinking everything's going great. Now with this one, I want to show you how this is true for all these other articles as well. I'm going to scroll to the bottom to where we saw the information about how Pepsi funded the other article, or Quaker Oats funded the other article. Notice where it says, "This research received no external funding," and conflicts of interest. The authors declare no conflict of interest. Whereas in the other one, we see a bunch of the authors had no conflicts of interest, but one author did because they were funded by Quaker Oats, and it was funded, the whole study was funded by Quaker Oats, whereas this one was no external funding, so no pressure from any outside sources to come to any kind of certain conclusions. So this one might have a better chance of getting a 3 on purpose from me if I was going to be researching this topic and evaluating sources. Hope this makes sense to everyone.